There they gave a dinner for him. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those at the table with him. Mary took a pound of costly perfume made of pure nard, anointed Jesus' feet, and wiped them with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of the disciples, the one who was about to betray him, said, "Why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii, money given to the poor?" He said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. He kept a common purse and used to steal what was put into it. Well, Jesus said, "Leave her alone. She bought it so that she might keep it for the day of my burial. You always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me." The Gospel of the Lord. Grace to you, peace from God the Father, from Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. You may be seated. Some of you may remember, some of you may not, that's okay too. Years ago, there used to be a kind of a funny show. I didn't watch it all the time. Quite frankly, you got on my nerves. It was Gomer Pyle. You remember Gomer Pyle? So some of you remember. He had his sidekick, the main character, or the other main character, who was always screaming at him and getting on him and keeping him. Anybody remember his name? Sergeant Carter, right? Sergeant Carter, right. Well, I mention this because he was the stereotypical, what we imagine, or what I imagine. I wasn't in the military, but nevertheless, what I imagined to be a drill sergeant. He had the crew cut, and he was always gruff, and always on Gomer, and always screaming at him and saying sometimes funny things, sometimes silly. I met a fellow that looked almost exactly like him, who was also in the military when I was living in Austin. And this guy had the funniest stories. He said, one of his interesting stories, more interesting to me, was he said, he goes, he did that particular job, or whatever you call it, for a long time, and he really enjoyed it. And I could see where he would be good at it. Well, anyway. So, I had a band director like that too, but that's another story. Nevertheless, he said that once upon a time, he used to shame in those days, it was mostly young men coming through his unit, of course. And so he used to shame the men and say, "You're you mama's boys." He was like, "You need to get out of that because you're no longer mama's boys. Now you belong to the U.S. military, blah, blah, blah." And he would, use all of that kind of logic. And so he finally quit saying that because it occurred to him one day that none of them would have been there if it weren't for their mamas in the first place. And in the second place, more often than not, the mothers, especially if there was an absent father or no father in the home, the mothers almost always, he said, encouraged their young sons to join the military. Because that way they would get, the male influence and the discipline in their lives and blah, blah, blah. He says, so really and truly goes, if it weren't for the mothers, many of those young men would never have joined. And so he had a great appreciation. So he quit using the phrase "mama's boys" as a shaming because he thought, that's not really a good idea because bless their hearts, for getting them here. And I say that because we don't often think about our text in this sort of way. But those parents, those mothers and the fathers, all those folks who encourage those young men and now young women into whatever direction, uncertain future their life may hold. That is an important part of parenting. It's an important part of being a friend. It's an important part of being a spouse. It's an important part of our life to encourage others that we care about and love to move forward, but most especially when it's an uncertain future. Because that's hard to do. And sometimes we get stymied. And I take you back. We're in John's Gospel, so I can do this. How many of you remember at the very beginning of Lent, one of the first stories we heard about was the wedding at Cana. And at the wedding at Cana, just briefly, they ran out of wine, and Jesus' mother, Mary, comes up to Jesus and said, "Hey, they're out of wine," because she knows. And he says, "It's not my time yet." Well, she knew better. And she knew that he needed a little nudge. We don't often think about it this way. She knew that he needed a little nudge to step into his future, the future that he was destined to step into. And so she didn't, in an indirect way, and it's really kind of sweet because, she knew him, and they knew each other very intimately. And so she tells the servants, just do whatever he tells you. And I know she said that where he could hear her. You know she did, because your mother's word. And so he did it. Guess what? He stepped into his future, and there were gallons and gallons and gallons and gallons of wine at this wedding in Cana. Because he may not have known it at the time, but she knew that it was indeed his time. It was time for him to step out and step forward into his ministry and into his life. And so that's what happened. And I imagine in our text this morning, when the other Mary, his friend Mary, comes up, and she starts anointing his feet. I believe, really, and I do. I've thought about this so many times that I bet at that moment in time, he imagined his mother Mary and now good friend Mary, all these people who truly do and did love him, because he knew what was coming next. He stepped into his future all right, but now he's headed to Jerusalem on purpose. And this isn't his first rodeo. And he knows that since it's not his first rodeo, how this story is likely going to end. He knew that. And so how many of you know when you're about to do something that you know is going to be hard? You know it's going to be hard. And you know that you have to do it anyway. That sometimes it's really nice to know that you've got people in your court. To use a basketball phrase. You've got people on your side. You've got people there that will love you into it. So that you are able to step forward, because while you're doing whatever it is you have to do, in his case, keep on going toward Jerusalem, I imagine that with every step, he would remember all those folks who cared for him and loved him and encouraged him along the way, so that he was able to step into the resurrection and the life for all the rest of us. Does that make sense to you? It makes beautiful sense to me. And it's interesting, within this same gospel, in a week and a half, we will hear about him washing his disciples' feet. He's going to do the same thing to his disciples that Mary's doing to him this morning, only not with high dollar perfume. That's really intriguing to me, and I want you to think about that this week, because there's a connection there between the first Mother Mary and then this friend of Mary and all these events that are happening. They go together in John's gospel. And the good news is, it's like they're taking turns. Because at one point, they're encouraging Jesus. And then in a week and a half, Jesus is going to be encouraging his disciples. With everything he's got, every fiber of his being, he's going to be washing the feet. Okay, now pay attention to what I'm doing for you, so that when I'm not here, you'll know what to do yourselves. So then he's encouraging them. It goes both ways. And that's what relationships do. And that's what John's gospel is really all about in a nutshell. And there are certain professors who would walk up here and slap my face, and that's okay. But in a nutshell, John's gospel is all about relationship with God through Jesus Christ and relationship with each other. Those are the critical areas of our spirituality, according to John. And the big betrayal is not when Judas, he says in our text, he's going to betray him. It isn't when he takes the coins. That's not the big betrayal. The big betrayal in John's gospel is when they're all at dinner that night I just told you about, when they're washing feet. And then Jesus says, "This is my body of the night of the court's institution." That's only in John's gospel. Anyway, and Judas gets up and leaves. It's like Judas rejects him in that moment. The rejecting of Jesus, the rejecting of the relationship, the rejecting of accepting who he is, just the rejection as a whole, that is the betrayal in John's gospel. That's it. Because Jesus had invested his entire life, his whole life, into these moments of encouraging these few disciples for them to step into their future, so that everyone will know that Jesus was and is the resurrection and the life. Because there's no way for them to find out unless they step into their future. And by default, there's a reason that we're all here. Because someone has encouraged us along the way and share with us the story. And now it is our charge, and part of the Great Commission, in fact, to go out and keep telling the story. And not only to our kiddos, even though that's really important, but to others. To tell the story about a God who, in a certain moment in time, needed the same kind of encouragement that we all need. That's how human he was. We don't often think of Jesus as very human. This is a very human moment this morning. I really want you to grasp it. I think he was shaken, in fact, probably to his core. Enough so that he's able to move forward. But nevertheless, it's like she knew exactly what he needed in that moment, so that he was able to do what he needed to do for all the rest of us. And then he says, follow me, but not just me, but all of those who've gone before that have encouraged me along the way. Now it's your turn. Do what I've done and do what they've done, and let's share the good news that we do share a God who is, yes, divine, but also at heart very human and very relatable. That's the God we serve. Amen? Amen. May the peace which passes all human understanding keep all our hearts and all of our minds in Christ Jesus our Lord. Amen.